This is Triggered.
And you will be.
It is day, 4, 5 of summer vacation, and I have not slept a decent night since it began.
Chantel needs to put the hammer down on these kids all night.
Here's the thing. I am such a light sleeper. I am a ridiculously light sleeper. And so I get that, like, they're teens and their sleep schedule is completely different than mine because we get up. Well, I haven't been getting up with Matt because I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
But like it's 12:30 at night and they're making craft dinner and it wakes me up. Every
Yeah.
door, every giggle. And I feel like a bad person because I want them to be having a good time. I'm glad they're happy.
Course.
At the same time, I'm like, well, looks like we're gonna have to shut shit down because if I don't sleep tonight, shit's about to get whack.
Guys, like, I won't survive Chantel not sleeping.
Okay, so this is the thing. I can deal with a lot of stuff if I've slept.
Yeah.
I am not a good person who can survive on no sleep. I become
No.
a monster. So for the sake of my entire family and Ashley, I need to sleep tonight. Happen?
So you said monster, and my brain like clicked to something that I want to give a brief overhaul before we get into your episode.
I'm ready.
Because
What's up?
you guys, the Ohio's House of Horrors, are you following this story?
I'm following it, and I think most people have probably heard about it. And I need to know if you think she's a victim.
Okay, so for our listeners, on June 30th, in this tiny little town of Hamden, Ohio, authorities went to serve an unrelated warrant. And instead, they found 16 children hidden inside of a house. Now, these kids ranged from 17 to 18 years old. Ohio's attorney general said the conditions were so deplorable.
17 months to 18 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. You said 17 to 18 years old. These weren't teens.
Oh,
They're
17
kids.
months. Excuse me.
All good.
They couldn't even reach parts of the house through all of the garbage. Like, I need you to look at that for a sec. He described the kids as looking almost feral and called it terrible. 7 of these kids were hospitalized, 1 in critical condition. The parents, Elizabeth and Gary Siders Jr., plus Gary's parents, were arrested and charged with 16 counts of child endangerment. Now, Elizabeth and Gary married as teenagers back in 2008, and some reports claim she may have had as many as 20 children, starting at age 13. But it's unconfirmed at this point. They're working on that.
Okay.
Now, none of these kids were ever enrolled in school. The family had quietly moved around Ohio for decades. So 2 decades of these fucking lunatics moving around. Now, all 4 suspects in the home have pleaded not guilty, and the case will head to a grand jury, but we're going to follow it as information comes out. But I am like, there are no words.
When I saw their mugshots, I was like, oh, this house is bad. You guys, look at their mugshots. If you look at the red around their eyes and their mouths, that's like mold and bacterial infections. So I can't imagine. And those were the grown-ups who were moving around. Well, I say moving around the house freely, but at least they were allowed to go outside. I can't imagine the state of these children who were locked in a 12 by 12 room.
When I'm not kidding, Mike came home and was like, "Did you watch the news today?" And honestly, I really try not to, because I do find if we get into a lot of heavy cases, I try and specifically look for cases instead of constantly having this negativity in my
Mm-hmm.
ear because
Mm-hmm.
it's depressing and like we're all there, right?
Yeah.
How did no one clue in that something was wrong? You have 4 fucking adults in that house,
Well, they knew it would. Listen,
but
the
someone on the
adults there.
outside, like you
Here's the thing, though, and it's hard for us to actually look at it like this. But think about wherever you live, think about that one house. Okay. The one house in the town or the one house in your neighborhood that is junky looking. You don't often see people there. What are you going to do?
I know. It's
Nothing.
just
You're not going to do anything. You're literally going to be like, ew, that house is gross. I wish they'd
yeah.
clean it up. Because nobody is thinking, oh, there's probably 16 babies locked in the basement. Like, come on.
You
Well,
know,
we're going to follow it.
as a society, after
Hmm.
all the stories we've told, we're almost at 200 fucking episodes. Have we not
Yeah.
evolved?
And
Like,
the truth is, no.
why is humanity
The
so
truth is, no.
fucked? Right.
Yeah. When we cover cases that happened decades ago, we are still dealing with the same BS that we were then. Although my only caveat here is that perhaps the justice system was a little bit more just back then.
Yeah. You know
But
what?
don't get me started because we'll be here forever.
With, you know, those kids are going to have permanent damage, especially the older ones, for the rest of their life.
Physical and emotional.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, if it is true that she did mother more than those 16 kids and they find out that there were more, death penalty, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, yeah.
You people are
So,
fucking disgusting, and
yeah.
I have no, like the truth is there. They were caught
Hmm.
with these kids in an
Yeah,
horrible situation, locked up.
yeah.
There's no, "Oh, but what if they're innocent?" They're not fucking innocent.
They're not innocent. Now, I will say, and please come join us in our free Discord chat to chat about this. I think the mom, I forget her name, the young one,
Yes. Okay,
I think
so
she might be a victim, guys.
she could be a
I have
victim.
thoughts. Yeah, I have
Right.
thoughts. Um, because here's the thing, whether they got married young or not, marrying someone is not consent. Let's just make that super clear here.
I
Just
wish
because she was married to this guy does not mean that she was consenting to whatever the fuck went on there. And we don't know yet. So we're going to chat about it.
on that
Obviously, we
note,
have to
if you
talk about
guys
it.
wanna watch, like, a really interesting film, I just watched
Hmm.
it. It's called Women Talking.
Oh, interesting.
And, it kind of follows that, like, it's wild. You know, it really hit home for me because I'm like, how many people are in situations where they think, "Well, you know, this is my culture, this is my marriage." I don't give a shit. You are an individual human being who deserves respect, top to bottom, side to side. There is no fucking gray area of that.
No.
There's no
Uh,
gray.
I will die on this hill. And this is my first PSA for the day. No means no. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if he bought you dinner or she. I'm not trying to be like it goes both ways. I don't care if they pay for everything for you. I don't care if they put a roof over your head. I don't care if they clothe you. I don't care.
Mm-mm.
If you don't want to, you have the right to say no, period.
Period.
All right. We're going to get into this
Let's
because
go.
I have a crazy day. You have a crazy day. We just got crazy days everywhere here. I want to just shout out. I met a new friend when I was in Ohio. He is my sister-in-law's fiance. Congratulations.
Let's
He
guys.
yeah, he is here from Belgium. And he was like, have you heard of this case? And of course I hadn't, because we're learning that, like, yes, we know about some of the like major ones that happen overseas, but really the ones we know are very North American, right? And we do research and we find stories about murders and crimes that happen elsewhere. But this one blew my mind when he was like, oh, have you heard of this? And I was like, no, I haven't. Like, what is it? You're not, like, buckle up. So, Ash, I want you to picture a basement, but not like a finished basement with like a dartboard and a bar. I mean, a cellar, low ceiling, brick and concrete, the kind of place where the air is thick enough to chew. And I know you know this. We've
My
had
first
basements like
house.
this. I
Yeah.
was going to say, I think your first house, the
It,
basement was exactly like
it
this.
was a century home.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is under a row house in a rough industrial pocket of Brussels, right up against a canal. And it smells like diesel fuel and raw sewage because it more or less is diesel fuel and raw sewage.
Delicious. I love that you gave the analogy so thick you could chew and then went into that. Thank you for that.
You're so
Breakfast has
welcome.
not been had.
I'm just trying to ruin everybody's day. Down there in the fall of 1997, there's a police technician in rubber hip waders up to his ankles in black sludge, shaking a metal sieve like he's panning for gold. Except, of course, he's not looking for gold. He doesn't actually know what he's looking for. He shakes the pan, the muck drains out the bottom, and something small and white stays behind. He picks it up and turns it over. It's a human tooth. And right next to it, when he keeps sifting, there's a chip of bone, a piece of a kneecap, a fragment of a human skull. Upstairs, the man who owns this house is a mild, rumpled, bespectacled 70-year-old with a soft accent and a little half smile that never leaves his face.
No.
He is a retired Protestant pastor. His name is Andras Pandy. The Belgian papers are about to start calling him Father Bluebeard, which I hate. We talked about this in the last episode. Like, can we stop giving kitschy nicknames to these monsters? By the time they're done digging up that basement, investigators will be staring at the remains of at least 8 people that they can't name, on top of 6 family members that they can.
His own family members?
Get ready.
This
Get
motherfucker.
ready. Andras Pandy was born on the 1st of June, 1927, in a little village called Chop.
Chop? Like the steakhouse?
Yes.
I'm going.
I was like, I'm going to love this. I'm going to love this. At the time, it sat in Czechoslovakia, right on the Hungarian border. Today, it is Ukraine. His parents were Hungarian, and Pandy grew up to become a church counselor for the Reformed Church in Hungary. Faith was the through line of his whole public life. He made this his identity, and I need you to remember that. He married his first wife, Ilona Soares, and in 1956, the Hungarian Revolution rises up against Soviet control, and it fails brutally. In the aftermath, huge numbers of Hungarians flee west, and Pandy and Ilona are among them. They land in Belgium, and Brussels becomes home. Now, here's where he starts to build his mask, where he starts to build his costume. In Brussels, Pandy sets himself up as a pastor for a small Hungarian Protestant community, refugees like himself, and he works as a religious education teacher connected to the United Protestant Church.
But he wasn't. He just.
Well, the thing is, this is the 50s. You could
Mhm.
kind of just be a religious person and take up that spot.
Fair.
Like, he wasn't doing anything super shady at this point. And by all accounts and by the entire community, he just was a man of God and loved what he was doing.
Okay.
He was helping refugees flee communism, keeping the faith alive for his community.
He sounds
The
like
kind
a
of thing that
saint.
you would, yeah, like the kind of thing you'd put in like a heartwarming documentary.
Yeah.
He and Ilona have 3 kids. Agnes, the eldest, is born in 1957, then 2 sons, Daniel in 1961 and Zoltan in 1966. Right after Zoltan is born, the marriage falls apart. Pandy accuses Alona of cheating, and they separate. Alona moves out and takes the 2 boys with her.
Why wouldn't
But
you
she
take your
leaves
daughter?
Agnes behind. She's 11 years old.
I
And this is the beginning of the horror because, and I'm going to say it plainly because Agnes deserves to have it said plainly. By her own account, this is when he begins sexually abusing her.
Yeah. I knew it.
Yeah. The man the community trusted, the pastor, the teacher, turned his own child into a victim. Okay, so it's early 1970s. Pandy is divorced, at least in practice, and he decides he wants a new wife. And the way he goes looking is honestly the biggest red, like the first big red flag, I should say, that this man is not right. He starts placing personal ads in Hungarian newspapers in a Lonely Hearts column, which initially I was researching this and I'm like, okay, well, that's what people did back then.
Yeah. It's no
But
different than like Bumble or whatever.
yeah, but he was giving a fake name and a fake job description. And also he had this tagline. He called it European honeymoon.
Gross.
I know. Which, and let's just keep in mind, like, there's actually nothing wrong with everything I just said, except for the fact that he's raping his 11-year-old daughter. Let's just keep that in the back of our head here. So he basically had like a marketing campaign. He had a slogan. Like if he had a logo, it would be up there too. Like, come to the glamorous West and marry a mysterious pastor who you don't know is a pastor because he's lying about it. Like, it's absurd. By the late 70s, he's traveling back to Hungary regularly. And through this whole Lonely Hearts pipeline, he meets a woman named Edith Findor. Edith is married. She already has 3 daughters from a previous relationship. And I'm, Niels, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher these names. I'm trying. Her daughters' names were Tundi, Tamia, and Andrea. According to
So bad?
Andrea, I can handle. I don't know if Tundi, I don't know if I'm saying that right. According to Edith's then husband, Pandy basically seduced her and spirited her away, and she left with him for Belgium, children and all.
Just pieced out on her husband?
Yeah, just was like, bye. After his divorce from Alona is finalized, Pandy and Edith marry in 1979. So let's do the family math because we need to know how many children are in this house now. Pandy and Edith go on to have 2 children of their own, a son named Andreas Jr. and a daughter, Reka. Add that to Agnes, Daniel, and Zoltan from the first marriage and 3 stepdaughters, Tundi, Tamia, and Andrea. And you get a household of 8 kids under this one man's authority.
So he got his sons back, is what you're telling me?
Well, it sounds like the sons came to visit.
Okay.
Like maybe like a summer thing. I don't know the details. It's not super clear. Also, just a side note, I did my very best to research and write this. I don't speak half the languages that all of this was written in, so I did my best.
Me, every time I do, like, any time of, like, Asian one, I'm like, well, this is going to be fun.
I was like, at one point, I'm like, oh, I want, like, a picture of the front page of the newspaper from the time, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that because I don't know what it says.
If
I could be
anything.
showing you an advertisement for, like, I don't know. So we chose not to add that. Anyway. And according to all reports, Pandy runs the household like a warlord. People who knew the family later described the wives as being treated less like partners and more like servants. One former colleague, a fellow Hungarian minister, said they had the impression Pandy's wife was not just his wife, but his slave. And the abuse does not stay in the past. Around 1984, Pandy begins a second incestuous relationship, this time with his stepdaughter, Tamia.
You know, put your pee-pee away, you fucking pervert.
It just,
Get out of here.
I will never understand. I'll never understand. Some people are like, well, it's a cultural thing. I know. I'm sorry. I don't. Rape is rape. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. In 1986, Tamia becomes pregnant and Andras is the father. Now, I want you to really think about what a pregnancy means for this man whose entire life is built on being a respected pastor. It's evidence. It is living, growing, not going away evidence of what you did, of your sin. And as we saw in our bonus episode from June, that can drive a man to do some crazy shit. And I know a lot of you have been asking, like a lot of our members have been asking for me to start talking about my experience growing up in a Christian cult. And I will get there. We will get there one day.
Hmm.
But reading what I'm about to read to you brought back some kind of deep-seated trauma for me that I had kind of forgotten about, because when Tamia tries to tell people, because she wasn't trying to keep it a secret, she was like, hey, I'm pregnant and it's my stepfather's. No one believed her.
That's the oldest tale, right?
Yep. And I want you to brace yourself here for a second, because what her family and members of the church that she was trying to tell said was, and guys, this is like graphic, so just bear with me. She must have used a towel with his semen on it to get herself pregnant on purpose.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah. Let's fucking blame the victim.
Yeah. Because we could not comprehend that a pastor was raping his stepdaughter, but makes total sense that this young girl was looking for nasty towels to get herself pregnant by her stepfather. That adds up. But
And
but
the thing
never
that
would he
pisses
do
me
that.
off is, do you think any young girl in her right mind wants to admit that she's been sleeping with her fucking stepfather? No. So if she
Also,
comes forward and says, hey, the fuck? Shame on all those
right.
people.
And this is where it gets so frustrating, because even today we see this, and it's not necessarily just in the church, okay? I'm talking about the church today because that's what we're talking about, pastor. But the amount of times that young girls get blown off, like, oh God, here
Mm-hmm.
she goes again. She must be making it up. Yes, sometimes they are making it up, but it's
Mm-hmm.
because there's a deeper issue lying there. But like, could we just initially, could we just believe them, please?
The thing
So
is,
anyway,
honestly, and you know, if you haven't seen it, there's that art installation online, What I Was Wearing. I really encourage people to go and look at that, because I'm so effing sick of victims getting blamed that, oh, well, she dressed a certain way. She invited that in. It was her lifestyle. All this bullshit. Look at that art installation. Because no, I don't
mhm.
care if you walk down the road butt ass naked. That is not an invitation for rape or abuse. I'm sorry. It's just not.
No, exactly. So Tamia gets sent off to live in another house, and Agnes goes with her. And here is where we start to see Agnes's role in all of this, because this gets dark real quick in what was later understood as a jealous rage. So, and I know some of you might be thinking like, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. Like their dad was raping them. There is such complications, especially when it's young, when like Agnes started being raped when she was 11 years old. Okay.
Mhm.
Right at the prime of when her brain is developing, right at the prime of when her body is developing. So I know it's hard to understand why she would be jealous, but she was. And I'm not blaming her for that. She was a
No,
child.
she was a baby. That was her father. She had all
Mhm.
of his attention. This new family moves in. Especially with abuse victims,
Mhm.
it's like a Stockholm syndrome. You learn to love that
Yes.
person.
Yes. And that kind of sounds like what was going on here.
Hmm.
So, in a jealous rage, Agnes attacks Tamia in the basement of the house. She tries to beat her to death with an iron bar. She only stops because something startles her, like some noise, and she breaks it off. Tamia survives. She is hospitalized. And in the hospital, she tries again to report the abuse. Because, and this breaks my heart because I can't help but put myself in Tamia's shoes and
Mhm.
just think she was in the hospital and she was probably like, now I have proof. Like this woman tried to kill me because I'm carrying her father's baby.
And no one
No one
listened.
believed her. No. So she delivers her baby. It's a little boy.
Was
And then
he was alive?
yeah, he was good. Yeah, he
Okay.
was good. And then Tamia does the bravest thing anyone in this family manages to do. She runs. In 1986, she gets herself and her son out. She goes first to relatives in Vancouver, here in Canada,
Mhm.
before eventually building a new life back in Hungary. She got out from under him.
That a girl.
And like, hold on to that because getting out alive makes her one of the luckiest ones. Right before she ran, Tamia told her mother, Edith, the truth. She told Edith Pandy had been abusing her and was the father of the baby. And it seems like that conversation is the match that lights the fuse because Edith confronts Pandy. There's a furious argument, and very shortly after the argument, Edith disappears. So let's walk through. I just want to give like a little bit of a timeline because there's so much going on and there's so many people involved. So, first, Edith, the second wife, is gone. And so is her 14-year-old daughter, Andrea. They've disappeared. Okay. And Pandy has an answer ready because, of course, he does. He tells people Edith left him for another man and moved to Germany. And he doesn't just say it, he produces a forged telegram as proof.
This fucking
So
guy.
throughout this entire story, Pandy forges so many documents to try to prove, like, no, they ran away. They ran away.
So he has an answer
So
for everything always.
always. So almost 2 years later in 1987, Pandy's first wife, Ilona, the mother of Agnes, and her two sons, Daniel and Zoltan, also disappear. Now, remember, Ilona had moved out 20 years earlier. She and the boys had their own lives,
Yeah.
and they vanish. Now, Pandy's story does shift on this one. First, he says they moved to France. Then he upgrades it to South America because I guess France was a little bit too close to
A
home.
little
And
close, right?
people were like,
Hmm.
I, I, I haven't seen them there. I haven't heard they were there. So he was like, oh, yeah, France, South America, like it all sounds the same. I'm sorry.
Doesn't
My
it?
bad. Yeah. So 1988, the last one, Edith's daughter, Tundi, she's still alive and she's still living in Pandy's house years after her mother and sister vanished. And initially I was like, girl, what are you doing? But then I
Right?
was like, this is also like post destruction of their entire country. There were refugees everywhere. Like, you probably just needed a place to call home, So I'm
Yeah.
not, it is what
We
it
don't
is.
know because we've never been in that situation.
Exactly. We can't even imagine.
We're very fortunate.
So Pandy sends Agnes off on a vacation with the two youngest children, Andras Jr. and Reka. And when Agnes comes home, Tundi is gone. Pandy tells her Tundi got disturbed, became difficult, and went to live with another family.
Disturbed.
Which I'm like, I'm disturbed, sir. All right, so let's count it. Edith, Andrea, Ilona, Daniel, Zoltan, Tundi. We got
All gone.
6 people, all disappeared. 2 wives, 4 kids, biological and step. Over 4 years, they've disappeared. Pandy avoids suspicion using false testimony and forged evidence, which I mentioned earlier. Postcards, supposedly from the missing family, mailed from places like Israel and Miami and Brazil. Letters in their names. So police are doing their due diligence. They
Mhm.
keep going back to Pandy and saying like, hey, 6 members of your family are missing and we'd like to just talk about that. And
Mhm.
when they would show up, he had a story for everything. He'd be like, look, I've got all this stuff, I've got I've got postcards, I've got telegrams, I've got people saw them, like look it. And it would kind of keep them at bay for a little bit.
I don't know about you, but I'm not sending my ex-husband a fucking postcard.
Ever. Not even a little bit. There is apparently this like story, and it's just word of mouth. We don't actually have proof of him like marching into a Brussels police station, playing the distraught, abandoned husband. Like, my wife's run off to Germany. Oh my God. And at the time, like, police were like, I'm so sorry, Pastor Pandy, which can we talk about Pastor Pandy for a second? Because that makes me want to throw up.
Every time you would say it, I was like, don't say it, Ashley.
Yeah.
We might have a listener that their last name's Pandy. Don't do it, Ashley.
And we love you. And I'm sorry. But here we are.
Sorry. We're 12. We are 12.
It's only funny because he's a pastor. It's not
right.
The last name Pandy is lovely. It's funny because he was Pastor Pandy.
Right.
Anyway. Okay. So he's panicking, right? Because he's like, fuck, they're looking at me. This is not good. So he's like, I know what to do. He hires young women, actual young adults, around 22, 24 years old. And he takes them on a trip back to Hungary to visit his friends and relatives. He's like, look, it's Andrea and Tundi. Aren't they so grown up?
Stop it.
And then he asks those friends and relatives, he's like, hey, you think you could write me a letter? Just being like, oh, I'm so glad that you and Andrea and Tundi, let me spell that for you, Tunde, make sure you put that in there, that you saw us on our vacation. Could you do that for me?
And they did, because it's Pastor Pandy. They're like, we will do anything for you,
And of course they did, because they believed that was Andrea and Tundi. They were like, oh my God, these people.
Girls were.
This is a witch hunt. Okay, so apparently we got to remember, okay, this is like post.
Yeah. People, desperate people do desperate things.
Exactly.
Totally get it.
He was like, you're going to come to a family barbecue. Okay. Your name is Andrea. Your name is Tundi. Don't ask questions. Just play the part.
Here's some money.
And they did.
You know?
And they did. Yeah. Like, they had no idea they were props in a cover up. But because, listen, and guys, I'm laughing not because any of this is funny. It's actually horrific. But like, just, he told the girls it was a rehearsal. He told them he was making a movie about his own life. And it was practice for the film. He was like, actually, this is going to be you applying to be an actress in my film. Would you like to do it? And he's
Don't break character.
Like, yeah. So he got them to do this over and over and over again, roughly between 1992 and 1996. It's for the movie about me.
4 years?
4 years. These girls were like, wow, this movie's taken a long time to make, but okay.
Where are the cameras? What's happening?
One of the women he was dating later, a widow named Margit Magyar, remembered him bringing 2 young women to her house. And he introduced them as Andrea and Tundi. She only realized like much later that it probably wasn't them. And speaking of Margit, there's this whole separate thread of women who nearly became the next chapter and got out. So I'm sorry. I know there's so many people in here, but just try to follow along. Margit and her sister, Eva. Both of them separately were charmed by Pandy near his summer place by the Danube. He had his cottage in Hungary that he called his refuge. He proposed to both sisters separately. Neither knew about the other first. Okay? Which, there was a very short time where you and I were single together. Very minimal. Can you imagine if I was like, hey, oh my God, Ash, like I met this guy. So nice, so sweet, treats me so well. And you'd be like, oh my God, me too. Oh my God. It's the same fucking guy. Get the fuck out of here.
Could you imagine the shit we would do to that man? We would be diabolical. We would be fucking around so much and having the best time.
Fuckery. Yeah, honestly. And I don't fully understand this, guys, but again, like, I don't know their lives. I don't know what they were doing. He invited them to come stay at his home.
Together?
In Brussels, and they did. each hoping to become his wife. So it was like the very early Bachelor.
I was gonna say that. This is like, who's
He
gonna
was
get
like,
the
come
rose
apply
at
to
the
be my wife. Yeah. And these girls were like, all right, we're in. But once they were there, he locked them in the house. He told them they couldn't go out into the streets because they only spoke Hungarian and it would draw suspicion. So they cooked and cleaned, essentially imprisoned.
Sounds like
So
a
that's
wonderful
weird.
time.
So anyways, the girls finally were like, this is ridiculous. But here's a twist that was really unusual. Nothing really bad happened. He just sent them back to Hungary.
You know what I think happened there? And I think because in his fucked up brain, he was like, I'll have two and they'll comply. But there's power in numbers. So now you have two sisters with a bond.
Also, we were joking a minute ago about like if you and I were in this situation, I would give a man exactly 1 week of you and I before he'd be like, you gotta go. Here's a train ticket for both of you.
Girl, no man is lasting a week. I mean, Mike and Matt are still around so far.
And I have to mention this just because it adds to the BS. Okay, he ran a charity. He set up an organization that fostered Romanian children, orphans, and refugees from the '89 revolution. Okay, he housed some of them in Brussels, which I can only imagine the horrors they experienced. But
Mm-hmm.
what I really need to talk to you about is what he named this charity, because he named it YDNAP, which is Pandy spelled backwards.
Stop it. We're not. No. It just gets more ridiculous the longer we get into this story. Like, I
Yeah,
just can't.
I know. I know. Okay. So I still haven't gotten into what this fuck actually did with all his family and God knows who else. Okay. So let's get into that. In 1992, Agnes walks into the police and reports her father. She tells them he sexually abused her. She raises the alarm that family members are missing. Okay. She
But
works by
that's,
the so like
I'm sorry, but that's odd to me because she was so jealous of his other relations, acting a fucking fool. And now she's all of a sudden walking in and being like, I have to report something. Like, what happened
yes.
to make her
And
do that?
I wonder if it's just, and we'll see why in a minute, guilt can eat at someone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I wonder if over the years the guilt just started to eat at her. And like Agnes is a very quiet, not dramatic woman. Like she's not loud. She works in a library at this point. And the police overlook her. They're like, yeah, yeah. Okay. They go to Pandy and he's like, what? Nah, that girl is so troubled. And they're like, yeah, we thought so. He actually suggests that maybe she's involved in some kind of cult. He's like, oh, this poor girl. So confused. She just feels like she's been abandoned by everyone in her life. They all left without her. So anyway,
And I'm
they
sorry,
like
is she
close.
still living under his roof at this time or no?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I can't be sure. In August of 1992, they closed the case. They're like, there is no case. File closed. We're not talking about this anymore. Now, here's the context that changes everything. There is a piece of misinformation floating around about this case, and I just want to clear it up. In August, and this is aside, so take a moment. In August 1996, a monster named Marc Dutroux, which I will probably also cover, is arrested in Belgium. Dutroux abducted, imprisoned, abused, and murdered children. And the horror of what he did was compounded by the fact that the police botched the investigation so badly that some of his victims died while he was actually in custody.
They were
Mhm.
still in.
On the 20th of October, 1996, something extraordinary happened. Somewhere around 300,000 people, some estimates go higher, marched through Brussels dressed in white. It is called the White March. In a country of about 10 million, that's roughly 3% of the entire population in the streets on a single day, which is incredible.
Mhm.
They were not just mourning the children, they were expressing total furious loss of faith in the police, the courts, and the government. Now, you'll read in a lot of places, including Wikipedia, that Pandy was arrested on the same date as the White March, but that's not right. And I want us to get it right. The White March was October 96. Pandy was arrested October 97. So it's
Okay.
not the same day. So I
Okay.
just wanted to be clear about that. So what had happened was the White March happened, and then there was this, then the police and the government and the courts and everybody was like, shit, we better fucking start taking this seriously. And one of the files that they pulled out of the bottom of the drawer was Agnes Pandy's. So that's how this kind of all came back to be. They initially didn't believe her in 96. The White March happened. And then they were like, shit, we better start looking into this shit. So this time they listened. A senior investigator took Agnes's statement, and it is rambling. There are huge gaps, and he can feel like something is stuck. So he suggests to Agnes, because he's like, something's not right. I'm not getting the whole story here. He's like, why don't you go for a walk through the courtyard? Um, we'll we'll walk behind you. Let's clear our heads. Let's come back, and you can try to fill in the gaps because something's not right here, honey. So she does. She goes for a walk through the courtyard. Two police officers follow her far behind, giving her space. She takes about 20 minutes, comes back in, sits down, and says, okay, I'm going to tell you how my father and I killed 5 people.
So she was also killing them?
Mm. Her
Stop it.
confession took hours, and what she described as a horror show. She said that at her father's direction, she killed her own mother, Alona. And she admitted taking part in the killings of her brothers, Daniel and Zoltan, her stepmother, Edith, and her stepsister, Andrea. The one death she would not speak to was Tunde's, because remember, that was the one where he sent Agnes on vacation with the younger 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought is that he committed Tunde's murder by himself. Okay. The method, by her account, was this. Some of the victims were shot with a handgun. Others were bludgeoned, struck in the head with a sledgehammer. And this is awful. The bodies were then dismembered, and this was mostly Agnes's job. She described using kitchen knives and axes, and she described in the flattest way possible, which is so disturbing. Her job was to remove the organs while her father cut up what was left. She even made a comment about how it was not as easy as you would think, that you had to use real strength to cut up a body.
Yeah.
And then the
Now
disposal.
now I'm wondering, like,
Mhm.
is it guilt or is she thinking like they're gonna know, they're gonna find out? So if I come in here and say something, I'll get lesser of a sentence. Like, what is the
I
motive?
I partially think that she thought she could come and tell half the story, and it
Mhm.
it would clear her conscience.
Yeah.
And obviously the detective that was doing her interrogation was brilliant and knew there was stuff missing that she wasn't telling. And I think maybe on that walk she was like, no, it's got to be everything because I don't feel better. After giving my little bits and pieces, it hasn't fixed anything. So she said some remains were taken to a local slaughterhouse, an abattoir over in Anderlecht, and dumped in with the animal waste. And the rest went into an acid bath, a vat of powerful caustic drain cleaner in the basement. So this brings us right back to the beginning, that dissolved flesh off bone and then dissolved the bone itself. For the most part, because remember, we found some bone.
Mhm.
Police searched several of Pandy's properties around Brussels. His home were clustered in he had a couple homes. So they were clustered in Molenbeek area along the old canal. The main house, the one on the Quai de l'Industrie, is where most of the killing is believed to have happened. Because in all of these houses, they found bones, teeth, ashes, blood splattered on walls, and in a freezer, what was described as large pieces of unspecified flesh.
Why would you keep that in a freezer?
I don't know, it's very weird.
Yeah.
So here's the part that turned this from a family annihilation, which initially they thought that's all it was, into something even bigger and murkier. When they excavated one of the homes, they pulled skeletal remains out of the concrete of the basement. DNA showed these were not Pandy's relatives.
Because of course he wasn't just gonna, if you can do that to your loved
Yeah.
ones, you're doing it
Hmm.
to people that you don't
Yeah.
love. Like, come on.
Yeah. Forensic analysis of teeth found there indicated they came from at least 8 different people. 7 women, roughly aged 35 to 55, and 1 man. None of them related to Pandy, and unfortunately, none of them were ever identified. So there's this dark theory that, remember his European honeymoon
I
bullshit?
was just about to say that.
Yeah. So there's this dark theory that he was either practicing or who knows?
I think he was just a fucking serial killer and like
Yeah, I think he was just fucked up.
yeah.
Okay. I want to get us to the trial because this is a gross, disgusting story, and I honestly felt dirty after this.
Mhm.
I felt gross. Andras Pandy went on trial in Brussels in February of 2002. And there was a major problem, Ash. There were no bodies, right? It's like there were no bodies. So the unidentified remains in the basement could not be matched to the missing family. So the actual murder charges rested on his 2 wives and his children, of whom not a single physical trace remained. Like, yes, there were bones. Yes, they could determine that the DNA matched, but like, we didn't have a body. We didn't have a cause of death. We didn't have anything. So the prosecution's spine was Agnes's confession.
Which can go one way or the other, right? Because she did have a major part in this crime.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the way that they were like, we've got Agnes's confession. Plus, we need to make the jury believe that dissolving a human body is actually possible on the scale that she described. So guess what they did?
Mm.
They ran an experiment. They took body parts from a man who had died of natural causes and had donated his body to science. And on
Okay.
video, they lowered his body parts into a vat of caustic cleaner that Agnes described.
Right.
And it worked exactly the way she said it did. The tissue
Okay.
simply disappeared into froth.
Yep.
When the video played in court, Pandy did not react, and Agnes just looked away.
Of course he didn't react.
No, and that was his whole vibe. He had no emotion. He had nothing. He denied everything. He called the entire proceeding a witch trial against him. He
Of
gave
course.
rambling statements stuffed with references to the Bible and the fall of Rome and the trial of okay, I never say this right. Socrates?
Yeah, Socrates.
Okay,
Yeah.
I always say it wrong.
Like you're
Get
comparing
this.
yourself to fucking Socrates, you lunatic.
Sir. Also, you were the ugliest, nastiest looking thing I've ever seen. Anyway, this was my favorite part because I love a little bit of fuckery. Andras Pandy claimed his missing family members were still alive.
He was still
Duh.
going with that?
They were being cared for by some vague international society. That when they asked him why, after years of searching, not one of these living people could be found, he said it was up to the justice system to prove they were dead. Duh. Okay, and this is it. This is the one. He claimed he was still in contact with his missing children through the angels, Ash. They're fine because I talked to them through the angels.
Like
In court.
white jacket. Put him in a fucking white jacket. Like, come on.
Surprise, surprise. The jury was not moved by the angels. After deliberating in early March 2002, they convicted Andras Pandy of 6 counts of murder, his 2 wives, Ilona and Edith, his sons Daniel and Zoltan, his stepdaughters Andrea and Tendi. He was also convicted of the attempted murder tied to the case and the rape of his 3 daughters. He was sentenced to life in prison. Now, Agnes was convicted too.
Mm-hmm.
She was found to be an accomplice of the 5 murders and in the attempted murder of her stepsister, Tamia. Prosecutors had asked for a long sentence, around 29 years, but her lawyers argued something that clearly landed with the court. They said Agnes had been living under what they called overwhelming, irresistible spell of a father who had been raping her since her childhood. And it's not untrue.
I honestly, and I don't give leeway very often, but in this situation, I think her going into maybe not like a prison, but maybe a
Hmm.
medical type prison center where there's
Yeah.
rehabilitation offered. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I want her roaming around the streets because that much damage done could mean that she's still a danger to society, but
Yeah. Yeah.
she deserves some peace and some help.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Um, Andras Pandy died of natural causes in the infirmary of the Bruges prison on the 23rd of December 2013. He was 86. He never gave up a single body, never told anyone who they were. He took the identities of those strangers to the grave with him. And I want to end where we always end, with Ilona, Daniel, Zoltan, Edith, Andrea, and the number of other people who disappeared and we'll never know who they were.
They deserved
Um, and
so
Tundi.
much
Yeah,
more than this piece of shit. Like,
I
what?
know. I know.
I'm
In
so sick of
all,
these monsters, Chantal. Like, I'm so sick of them.
Cash has had enough.
Fucking enough.
In all, there were 14 possible victims, 6 that they could prove, but 0 bodies to bury. And that was it. Okay, guys. That is the end of this case. Ashley's power went out and she's gone. So it's just me left here. Um, so obviously our heart goes out to the victims and the victims' families in this case. This is a horror story. Like we started the episode at the beginning with the Ohio House of Horrors, this was a whole nother house of horrors that went undetected for years and decades because nobody believed the girls who were claiming that this is what was happening. So, guys, we got to do better. We just do. So, I am not used to ending this episode by myself, but we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Check out our free Discord, and we'll see you all on Tuesday. Bye.